Welcome to Strength Side. In most cases, sitting on the ground is a far better option than sitting in a chair. When you sit down in a chair, it takes away a lot of your body's natural stabilization that usually has to do when you're standing and walking and sitting on the ground. And usually the more comfy the chair, the less your body has to stabilize itself, right? If you think about sitting back in a lounge chair, your body doesn't really have to do much at all. What this is going to lead to is our good friends, muscle imbalance, poor movement mechanics, things like that, right? So in this video, we're going to go over some options that you can use to sit on the ground when you're working on your laptop, when you're at home, end of the day watching some TV, whatever you crazy people do out there. These are some options that you can use to keep those hips a little bit more mobile, keep that full body more healthy for your life. All right, let's get to it. So the first step in sitting on the ground is to sit down onto the ground. So what I'm going to do here is just go through some positions that you can sit on the ground in, and we're kind of going to do it. You can think of it as easiest to hardest, but really it's more of like simplest to most complex. So probably the most simple position you could sit on the ground is just like this, right? My legs are straight out in front of me, and I'm simply just sitting here trying to sit upright, right? So if this is too challenging for you already, then probably the easiest one you can do is just to lean back this way, right? This is going to be the least demand on your hips. I'm basically laying down right now just with a little bit of hip flexion, okay? So that's where you're going to start, but we want to start with this legs out position. Now, this is going to be most challenging for you if you have some hamstring stiffness, right? If you have some hamstring stiffness, it's going to be hard to extend this knee all the way. What you're going to compensate by doing is you're either going to hunch forward like this, with this kind of rounded back, or you're going to have to keep some flexion in your knees. If that's what's going on with you, that's totally fine. We're just going to work towards getting these knees straight and sitting upright, right? So every time you sit down, just see if we can push that knee a little bit more into the ground. You can even kind of squeeze those quads a little bit, and that's going to straighten out that knee, okay? If you find yourself hunching forward like this, let's just pop that chest up. Let's kind of tilt that pelvis forward into anterior tilt to keep us a little bit more erect and upright, okay? So that is numero uno right there, the easiest way that we can sit. Now, number two is we're going to come to this position, right? Now, I like to call this kind of the youth sports position, because you'll see a lot of kids sit like this when they're like listening to their coach, say you're on a baseball team and your coach is talking to you guys before the game or something. Kids kind of sit down and they just grab their knees like this and you listen. I used to sit like this all the time in basketball camp, right? Got my ball between my legs and I'm just listening to the coach, right? So this is a great position to be in. We're getting some hip flexion here, but we're also still supporting ourselves by having to keep this torso upright, right? We're not able to just lean back and let these hip flexors just over engage, okay? So one way that, if your hips are kind of tight and this is kind of a challenging position, we can just go one leg out, one leg up, right? This is kind of like a squat versus a lunge. Sometimes a squat is a little bit harder for people to get down deep into and get, that full squat depth. But if we lunge, they're able to do it, right? So we're just kind of regressing the movement, only putting one hip into flexion, right? And from here, I can also mess around with just letting that leg go down like so. Pretty easy. Just putting a little bit more external rotation in the hip, challenging the inner thigh adductors a little bit more, right? So from here, we're going to go into that, and everybody knows this position is just a cross-legged position, right? Indian position may not be the best one to call it, but this position is something that everybody should be able to sit into and to be comfortable in, but it's a position that a lot of people aren't because of our ability to be stuck in the chair so long, right? So if you're stuck in the chair, your hips get limited in rotation, and now this suddenly becomes a crazy demanding position to get into it. You're kind of like this, right? Trying to open up, but it's kind of hard because our hips are stuck, and that's making us compensate at the spine by rounding and everything. So basically with this, we're kind of going from this youth sports position and just putting those knees down, right? So this is a position that you should attempt to sit into as much as you can, really, right? Because this is kind of a fundamental position that we think everybody should be able to just chill in, right? I can watch TV here, I can read a book, I can eat food, I can do whatever I want, right? So try to get used to this position, try to get better. I will say from personal experience that when my hips were a lot more jammed up and I had a lot more constriction of range of motion, this position was not comfortable at all for me, right? I would try to meditate and, my hip would start aching before I could reach enlightenment, and that's a bad problem to have. Now this last one that I'm going to show you is a little bit more complex, and it's not as easy to just chill in, but it's actually going to be really healthy for your hips, and it's going to allow you to work on internal rotation a little bit more, that we are really big fans of, because internal rotation is something that a lot of people lack. So we're simply just going to get to a 90-90 position, okay? Call this 90-90 because my knee, hip, knee are all in about 90 degrees, right? You don't have to be spot on. It's okay if we're a little bit out of that, but that's what we kind of want to shoot for. Now, from here, it's the same thing. All I'm going to do is chill here, right? Now, if you haven't done this before, and if you're lacking a lot of internal rotation, you're probably going to have to lean forward a little bit. You're probably going to need your hand down to support you. And if that's the case, that's fine, right? That's where you're starting. But we want to get to the point where we can kind of just sit upright. We don't need our hands to support ourselves here, right? I can go like this if I want. I can have tons of fun with my arms. So this one, is asymmetrical, of course, so you want to do it on both sides, right? So I can switch to this side to make sure that I'm not getting super lopsided in imbalances. But what you'll probably find, what you might find, is that one side is kind of tighter than the other, right? And if that's the case, then you probably want to give that uncomfortable side, that side that isn't quite, that you can't quite chill into as much, a little bit more attention. So for me, that would be this side, because I lack a little bit more internal rotation in my right. So I'm just going to give this side a little bit more attention. I'm going to chill here a little bit more. Let me give you a side angle of this one. Boom. Okay. So 4, maybe 5 positions that you can sit in. The number doesn't matter. These are just a bunch of options that you guys can use to really just work on being more mobile throughout your day, right? I think that sometimes when we think of it too much as I got to do my mobility work, I got to set aside like 20 minutes to work on mobility. That's great, but we could also be working on our mobility throughout the whole day in a less formal manner, right? Just by simply getting into positions like this, demanding our hips to be a little bit, demanding our hips to adapt to different positions throughout the day rather than just those single stagnant positions. Oh man, you're gonna love it. You're gonna be a lot better off. Okay guys, that's the video. Be sure to like it, subscribe to Strength Side if this video helps you out at all. Leave a comment, let me know what you guys think, all right? How are you sitting out there? Like always, I will see you in the next one.